India and China are on the verge of a war. It's not in Ladakh, and in the northeast part of India with hugely military deployments from China and India. It's getting tense day by day more in Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh of northeast part of India. The India-Myanmar border suddenly has become an active, with some suppliers getting apprehended with huge cache of Chinese weaponry. The northeastern region in India again is witnessing movements and attacks on Indian security forces. Nepal has witnessed a land grab from the China, with informally many from the native media, officials and politicians admitting that China has already encroached and occupied few villages of Nepal. A more concerning report has emanated that 2 kilometers within Bhutanese territory, China has established a village called Pangda, and that has even been confirmed by the senior CTGN journalist Shen. During Imran Khan's Niazi era, Pakistan has not merely been an iron brother of China, but relegated to the subservient position is quite evident. The way the Pakistani-Arab relationship has deteriorated and its financial, political, and strategic dependence has increased exponentially on China. Chinese insecurity against India has recently been described in the US State Department report that suggests that the former perceives India as a rival. Instead of moving back from the Finger 4 area in the Ladakh region, the road between the Finger 6 and Finger 8 is being widened. There have been several intel inputs of the reinforcement and relocation of PLA of the Chinese troops across friction points and close by all India-China border. PLA reportedly has also increased troops deployments at 70 km east of Daulat Beg Aldi, which is strategically very important for India. There have been movements of Chinese tank transporters at Gobak, 60 km east of LAC, while heavy equipment transport vehicles have been seen on the road from Shadang to Spangar Gap, which is directly visible of Indian troops, post-captures of the strategic heights in the South Pangong Tso on August 29-30th. The container housing modules across friction points, installation of surveillance equipment, construction of communication towers at Changmu, and conversion of a major army supply depot at Xianghua town are some of the other strategic build-ups by China that point towards preparation for a big battle. China's supposed success of UAVs or unmanned vehicles in the recent Armenia-Azerbaijan war, a noticeable increase in the number of unmanned area vehicles at Hoping airbase close to Sikkim has been noticed as well. An electronic warfare unit with 4 counter-space jammers has been deployed at Nanglu in the Chinese border, 60 kilometers from Arunachal Pradesh, with the possible intent to try and jam the Indian GSAT and communication satellites and navigation satellites in the event of a war. As part of Chinese hybrid warfare, China continues to keep up the propaganda mission oil, from providing its troops with reoccupy unknown and unmanned territories against Indians or the usual camouflage techniques exported from the PLA. In fact, according to the bilateral Indo-Bhutanese treaty, India is responsible for the protection of its territorial integrity, and using Kashmir, Pakistan may use it as a possible two-front war against India. There lies a real possibility of a limited short Chinese-Pakistan war against India. In the backdrop of such huge military planning and preparation, and with the next CPC preliminary scheduled for 2022, where Xi Jinping needs to show his mettle to retain his savvy over the military party and the country. Since China cannot fight the world's best mountain forces of India in the winter, China building up infrastructures and communication on its side, waiting for the internal security and economic situation in India to be worsened, and then try for a short, swift war as per its convenience, time and place, in the northeast and not in the East Ladakh perhaps. Post-winter is something that seems to have been going through Xi's mind right now. So, what do you think of China is deploying more troops in the Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh India northeast border while they are planning for a short term big war? Will India face it, or this might lead to a bigger battle?
In a strategic move, India and Australia have signed a comprehensive strategic partnership deal to join hands against China. While India and Australia are standing tough against China in these uncertain times, this remarkable move makes this deal a most important one. India's peace talk with China is still not yet going positive. This landmark deal will impact China hardly, as world's biggest democracies as the US, India, the UK, France, Canada and Australia are joining hands against China. The mutual logistics support agreement between India and Australia gives a pass to India's growing military power in the Indian Ocean region. In this deal, India can use Australia's air bases and naval bases to refuel, rearm, repair, dock and ammunition their ships and air forces of India. India also already has a similar pact with United States, France, Indonesia, Singapore. On last week of Thursday, India's Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi and the Australian Prime Minister Mr. Scott Morrison had an important first-time virtual summit. Australia also said that it will back India's candidacy for the permanent membership of reform the UN Security Council and India's candidature for the non-permanent seat at UNSC for the 2011-2022 terms. Australia also expressed its strong support for the India's membership for the Nuclear Surprise Group, which China strongly opposes India's inclusion. Although China is the biggest buyer of the Australia's export, there have been trade frictions between the two recently. Indian troops are locked in a standoff with the Chinese troops on their disputed border high in the Himalayas. This comes at the time when India is increasingly concerned by its huge trade deficit with China and the Beijing's rapidly expanding footprint in South Asia through its Belt and Road initiative. With this deal, India gets all access to the military bases in Australia, which means literally India gets a military base in Australia. So what do you think of India's getting a military base in Australia? Can India benefit from these bases located in foreign soils?